Wow, great to see so many people I haven't seen in a while. And some I've never seen in person. Oh. So this is the first time that me doing this, and I woke up this morning and I was just deeply, deeply sad, thinking that we could all be in beautiful Edmonton and having had a breakfast in our lovely hotel and gather in a room, and we could have given each other real hugs. I so miss those real hugs, and we had people. Isabel was going to come from Quebec, and Sheila was coming from Toronto. There were other members coming from Ontario, and we'd had tons of people come out from the BC coast and anywhere in between. And but here we are, and I'm very thankful that you guys are joining us for the more businessy part of the meeting. Which would have been less exciting. Normally we would be sitting here and we'd have a panel discussion on safer supply. We had an exciting slate of speakers lined up. So we hope to still have some of those discussions online. But I'm going to give it till 5 minutes after 10. And then we're going to get started. Just a little heads up, you have your agenda. I had a link to the report and the agenda, and I'll be reviewing that as well. I won't be doing any screen sharing of the document, so we and Angela will give us in a moment also a bit of a lay of the land on Zoom, which will help. So. Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment about the annual report. I cannot believe how well done it is. It's just the graphics, the information. Congratulations. I'm not sure who worked on it, but it was just wonderful.
Well, a bunch of us worked on the content, but the beauty and professional look squarely is a responsibility of our program manager, Jennifer Howard. Hey, for Jennifer, clap. Thank you, Jennifer. We've never had an annual report like that. I mean, we had like a little printed paper document. We never had a proper annual report. And to have our first one look this professional is thanks to Jennifer. And she will help us next year to make it a little shorter, because some of us are full of words that come out. So she'll make sure that our individual updates are a little more concise. But yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for that. It's something, first when Jennifer said, we'll put the annual report on the website, and I said, I'm not sure. And then when I saw it, I said, yes, on the website. Thank you for that, Nancy. So, yeah, wow, we have people. I see Lori from Alberta, and then Darlana from Bercy, and Arlene is there, and Charlene, Antoinette from Manitoba. And Katie, yeah. We are over 3 pages with Zoom. Well, Angela will explain in a moment how you can also kind of scroll along so you can see everybody. So I'm going to get started, and to get us started, Sheila is still looking for the link. If somebody could just pop that in a messenger for her. So I would like us to get started with a territorial acknowledgement, and we were wondering if there is one for all of Canada, but there actually isn't. But since this meeting was to be held in Edmonton, we're going with Treaty 6. And Treaty 6 territory is the traditional meeting grounds, the gathering place, traveling route of the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and we acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. At the center of this treaty land is the North Saskatchewan River, and we all stood by the river together with an elder from Northern Alberta who gave a blessing and had our Alberta photo taken there. So since that photo, I get a little emotional with the territorial acknowledgement, because yeah, it really shows to me what that land means to us. So having done the territorial acknowledgement, I'd like to call our first virtual annual general meeting for Mom Stop the Harm, the AGM 2020, to order, and would like to hand it over to Angela to give us a lay of this land of Zoom.
So hi everybody, it's good to see everybody here. As you've noticed, I've muted you all, and I would appreciate it if you stay muted until the end of the meeting, where we'll open it up. And there's over 50 of us in here right now, so we have to be careful not to all speak at the same time. So it's best to stay muted until Petra says to unmute. If we have the time later. So one thing that we will be doing later is we will be electing the board, and that needs to be done with a show of hands, yes or no. The best way to do that is in chat. So if I can encourage everybody to make sure you know where your chat feature is. Essentially what you'll do is you'll type a question, type yes in there when the election comes up, or no if you're not in favor of the board. If you have any questions, you can certainly put them in the Zoom chat. We'll try to deal with those later or as they come up. This is something that we have not done before, so you know, have patience with us. We'll do what we can. If we can't answer the questions during the meeting, we'll answer them later, or even via email after the meeting is done. For chat, hopefully everybody can find their chat feature. Maybe give it a try. There should be a little link. It depends on your platform. So there should be, if you're on your phone, you might have to look a little harder for it. If you're on a computer or a laptop, usually Alt-H will help you find your chat feature. If you press Alt-H at the same time, that should kind of give it to you. So if everybody wants to take a moment to kind of look for their chat feature and say something in the chat, then we'll see that everybody's got it. And it looks like a lot of you are finding your chat feature, so that's really good. And in order to see people, because I think we have over 40 some people actually participating, depending again on the platform that you are on, it's good to see the faces. A lot of you I know from Facebook, and you know me from Facebook, but and we know just our user icons and what we share in our feeds and on our stories. So it's good to see some faces. I'm pleased to see a lot of people here, so it's good. Hi Darnana. And hi Rhonda. We would have been in Edmonton today having our AGM. Yeah. So how's that? Is everybody good with the chat? Do I see thumbs up everywhere? Thumbs up? Do we need another few minutes, a few seconds on that? Or are we good to go? I see thumbs up. Everybody seems to be okay. So pass it over back to Leslie.
Well, actually, before we go to Leslie, just in addition to when you vote, it would be yes, no, or if you want to abstain, you can also abstain. And when we vote for the board slate, we would ask that one of you make a motion for the election of the slate of board members, and somebody second it. And you know, probably somebody who's familiar with board processes and such. If you do that, that'd be great. And just type that also in the chat function. And we had promised that we draw a name at the end of the, like after the meeting, Jennifer will draw a name from all attendees and send you a copy of Overdose by Benjamin Perrin. So, and now we are truly, I noticed Juanita joining, and that is very significant. We don't have anybody from the NWT, Yukon, or Nunavut, but we are coast to coast, east to west. Yay, Canada, coast to coast. And over to Leslie, who is on the left coast. And Leslie needs to unmute herself before she can talk.
There we go. So, hi everyone, and welcome. Today, we live within the COVID pandemic, within the opioid overdose pandemic, and we live with the tragic and frightening situations around the world, especially down south right now. As if we all do not have enough grief and stress and work in our lives, we've had to change our way of life. We were hoping to meet one another, hug one another, hear our stories, share meals, laughter, and tears over the days of our AGM. But we are nothing if not resilient. We're still here. We're still working towards our constant goal of saving lives of people who use drugs, supporting them and their families, and advocating for change. So we meet the only way we can. And when I say we during my sort of welcome here, I mean all of us. I don't mean just the board, all of us. As we have grown, advocated, traveled to Ottawa and to different communities around the country, we have become not only visible, but respected and consulted with by all levels of government in certain provinces, not all, that's for sure. We've told our stories on media. We have partnered with several other big and strong advocacy organizations. We've appeared in many videos, and in Petra's case, even a TED Talk. And we have listened to yours and more than 1,000 other stories. It's time to leverage our position as fully as we can. We must pursue media, pursue politicians. We must explain to anyone who will listen that decriminalization of people who possess illicit substances and that a safer supply will support the lives of our children and the loved ones of others everywhere. We must speak out about recovery and what it means and how the industry needs to be strongly regulated and subsidized. The time has really come to be more radical in our advocacy. I've been reading a lot lately about Larry Kramer, who died quite recently. He started the ACT UP movement during the 80s, during the HIV/AIDS crisis, when the US government wouldn't listen or pay attention to the sickness and death caused by HIV. If you want to see radical advocacy, check out what he was able to accomplish. Do we want to go to jail? Well, I would, and I think Sandra Tully, I don't know if she's here, but she said she'd go with me, so we could do that. Just think about how you're willing to advocate for the Mum Stop the Harm cause and the cause of supporting and saving the lives of people who use drugs. Share your ideas with the board in the coming months. We must continue to support one another in our struggles with grief, with stress, and the anxiety of a loved one in addiction, incarceration, in treatment. We must acknowledge each other's bad days and good days, birthdays and death days. And we must continue to post information from our regions in matters of drug safety, harm reduction, and the policies we see, good and bad. Mum Stop the Harm has a strong two-directional mission. We advocate politically, and we support families and individuals living with drug-related harms and grief everywhere. Your support, your ideas, your commitment is so important to the success of Mum Stop the Harm. This is your organization. So let's keep it vital, progressive, and full of heart, which is really the strongest tool we have in the box. So welcome everybody, and thanks. Petra?
Yeah.
Are you on?
Thank you. I just said to, hey, this is the virtual version of a standing ovation. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for your power and your energy and the love that you shared with all of us. So moving into the formal part, I would ask that somebody move to approve the agenda before us. And okay, we have from Tyler Savard, and we have seconders, if yeah, for this one, can we just, I'm just asking Angela, she said, can we just say that without having everybody to type in, anybody who does not want to approve the agenda, type in. Yeah, we'll do a full vote for the board, but if anybody, if everybody is fine in the agenda, with the agenda, do nothing. Otherwise, type in what, if you want any changes to the agenda. Okay. You have also all received the minutes of the previous meeting, and that was on June 8th in beautiful downtown sunny Vancouver, and that time Deb and her team welcomed us, and we had a very, very successful meeting there. And you've received the minutes from that AGM. Could somebody please move to approve the minutes of the AGM from June 8th, 2019?
Petra just comment that the AGM minutes from last year should actually be someone who was actually there.
Yeah, okay, like from somebody who was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And it can be a board member or non-board member.
Right.
I'll move to approve them.
Thank you, Helen. Seconder?
Marie seconds.
Yeah, thank you, Marie. Yeah, we have evidence of Marie being there. She was wearing our beautiful t-shirt, which I recently shared on Twitter.
I've been on mute. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I was trying to second that motion.
Thank you, Sheila. Good to see you here. So, okay, good. So next on our agenda, we have the presentation of the financial report by Helen, our treasurer.
I really wanted to be in an outfit with a visor, but couldn't find one. Thought of it last night. So you all got a copy of the balance sheet and the statement of receipts and disbursements. So you see that at the end of last year, we had $11,960.71 in our account. And the end of this year, we have $67,833.71. So if you have any questions about the receipts or the disbursements, you could ask me now.
We should also say that the big difference is due to one large donation.
So
that came anonymously.
Yeah, our donations were $68,930.12. Our fundraisers were $1,635 and $2,500 in grants. So then during the year, we spent $17,192.12 operating the various things we did with Mom Stop the Harm. Anybody have any questions? Don't understand something? Everybody's good.
Okay, so could somebody please move to approve the financial report as presented by Helen?
I approve it.
Sandra moves. Okay, seconder?
I second, Marie.
Okay, thank you, Marie. And in this case, we give it a moment. If you do not, if you vote other than yes, please type in chat, either no or abstain. Otherwise, we assume this is a yes. And thank you for that report. And also, we should thank at this point Helen's husband, Stu, who is a chartered accountant. Not every small not-for-profit like Mom Stop the Harm has a chartered accountant at their fingertips, and he keeps our books balanced and keeps our balance sheets very, very easy to read and understand for the board. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to say thank Stu for the hard work he does for us. Thank you, Helen. If you could pass that along, please. Hey, a hand for Stu. So it would be lovely to have him in Edmonton, and but nobody's here. So, okay, so the next item is the election of the board of directors. We are working towards, you see that there are more directors from some provinces than others. And actually, if you think about the history of our organization and how it unfolded, the overdose crisis first emerged most strongly in BC, moving to Alberta, moving its way eastward and leaving victims in its wake. So we originated in BC and Alberta, where we have most of our members. Most of our members are in BC, followed by Alberta, followed by Ontario now, and then the rest of the country. So the board representation, we are looking to move for broader provincial representation as we go along. And at times, if we see there is a gap, we have in our bylaws the opportunity to add members to the board and then bring the full slate to the AGM. Being on the board is a little different than being in leadership. It's board members do advocacy, but they also do a lot of other stuff, which is maybe less exciting, like sitting down for 4 consecutive Mondays for 2 hours to work our mission, vision, values, who we are, and goals. And now we'll be working on policies and writing grants and fundraising and those kind of things. So, but if anybody is ever interested in joining the board in the future, especially somebody from the Atlantic provinces and Manitoba, that'd be great. But this morning, our slate standing for election includes several, the following members. Leslie McBain for chair. I stand as for election, Petra Schultz as co-chair. Helen Jennings as treasurers, Deb Bailey as secretary, Angela Wells, Marie Argyritis, Sheila Jennings, Christine Wingate, and Isabelle Fautier as member at large. And at this point, what I'd like to do is to have each of the board members in the order in which you are on the agenda to just say hello so people see your face, and you can just say who you are and where you are.
Well, I guess that would be me first. Well, I think you all know me. I'm Leslie McBain, and I live on Pender Island, BC.
And I'm Petra Schultz, and I normally live in Edmonton, but at the moment I'm a stone throw from Leslie on Main Island, BC.
I'm Helen Jennings, and I live in Kelowna, BC.
Hi, I'm Marie Adjeritis, and I live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Hi, I'm Sheila Jennings, and I live in downtown Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, I'm Christine Wingate, and I live just outside of Ottawa.
Isabelle Fortier de Montréal, représentant tous les francophones du Canada.
I am Angela Wells, and I'm from Edmonton, Alberta.
I'm Deb Bailey, and I'm from Vancouver, BC.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for these introduction. Some of the members of the board are part of our, what I call our original 15, our first Mom Stop the Harm meeting ever. There were about 15, 16 of us in Summerland, BC. And there are several of our board members and also members in leadership and on this call here who are still from that that original group, and that just shows yeah, the hard work and continuity that has gone into it. Yeah. I see Sandra, and Sherry was part of that original group, and Arlene Howe, Arlene Howe and Arlene Kolb was not at the meeting, but she joined us early. So thank you all for continuing the work with us, and we are creating history. And as Leslie said, people take note of us, and we have to use our voices. We have to use our voices to save lives. So at this point, we will ask you all to actually use your chat function. First, could we have somebody who is not standing for election move to approve the slate of board members?
I can do that.
Thank you, Antoinette. And seconder?
I can second.
Thank you, Lori. BC and Alberta stepping up. No, Manitoba and Alberta stepping up. Sorry, Antoinette, I misplaced you. And then now for the election of the board, if you could please just type in the chat function. And also you can type if you have any questions about joining the board and how that works and such. After the election, you can just chat that in and type that in there too, and we can either address it or get back to you later. So giving it a moment here. While we're waiting for the election to go through, I was very pleased to hear that our Chief Medical Officer of Health for all of Canada, Dr. Theresa Tam, this morning on Twitter acknowledged that we have an opioid crisis. For the longest time, all of us are feeling like our crisis, our health crisis, was forgotten by the government, and it is terrible that it seems like death rates are indeed up significantly, but it's good to see that people finally remember. So we have to make sure that it is being remembered. Oh, Leslie Mussett is a fellow Islander is on here too. I just saw Leslie Mussett. Oh, I haven't even seen her yet. We are in self-isolation on our little island until Monday night.
I would just like to add in this little break that Theresa Tam has actually been on our side for years. She gets it. She's always been able to get it. She understands it, and she wants the same thing we do, which is true of so many politicians and bureaucrats, but they are hooped by whomever their boss is. And so if we're going to blame anybody at the moment, it is probably well, you know, I don't want to say anything bad about Justin Trudeau right now because he's doing a pretty good job, but you know, there is not the will right there to put into action what we need. Just had to throw that in.
It's good, Leslie. And Isabel, you're like, you have a very French husband. He comes walking in and plants a kiss. And Isabel joined us over the course of this year, and she's just been such a wonderful addition to our board, because we've been looking for ways to reach out to Quebecois, to Francophone Canadians, and Isabel has already been on some panels and discussions in French and such, and it helps us to be truly reflective of this country. At least in this language, we don't have any Indigenous languages on our board yet, but maybe we can help that in the future. So it seems like everybody is done voting. Thank you very much, and sorry for the somewhat awkward process, but this is just the easiest way to go with Zoom. So having had that vote, we go on to more interesting things. As I said, one of the exciting things the board gets to do is to have several consecutive Zoom meetings to work on our mission, vision, and vision, and our goals, and who we are. And you find that all on our website. And our mission is really simple, and I want you to remember that. And when people ask you, what does Mom Stop the Harm do? You can answer, we advocate to end substance use related stigma, harms, and death. That is really it summarizes what we do. This is our end goal, to end substance use related stigma, harms, and death. And this is on our website if you go to About and Mission Vision, and of course it's also in the report that Jennifer put together with us. And there you find 9 goals with a couple of sub-goals, our main goals. I won't go through that. We also, to be more reflective of who we are, we revised our who we are statement, because we started out as a group of moms who had lost children to substance use related death, including, like most of us, to overdose, but also suicide. Lorna Thomas was one of our original members. And yeah, Lorna, Leslie, and I, we started Mom Stop the Harm. But as we grew, we had more people join who had loved ones in recovery. We had people join who weren't moms. We had siblings, we had spouses, we had parents and grandparents and friends join. And also we had more and more people join who had a loved one either in recovery or a loved one who was still struggling with problematic use, and they were hoping to achieve recovery. So to reflect that, we changed our who we are statement to Mom Stop the Harm is a network of Canadian families impacted by substance use related harms and death. We advocate to change failed drug policies and provide peer support to grieving families and those with loved ones who use or have used substances. So this really shows the 2 areas where we work. We work in advocacy and peer support. And I know that not everybody joins to be an advocate. Most everybody who's here this morning works actively in advocacy, but we also have a lot of members join us for the mutual support, and we recognize the importance of that, and it's an important thing that we do. So so if you have a question or comments about the mission vision, you can use the chat function. If not, I would like to hand it over to Leslie, who has a couple of exciting updates for us.
So last November, I called up Judy Darcy's office. She's the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions here in BC. And I know her from the past years, and asked for a meeting, and I was given a meeting. So in the meeting, I told her that Mom Stop the Harm was really doing the province's work, that we are supporting families, that we're advocating for progressive evidence-based change, and that we, because we were doing their work, we should get some funding. The short story is she agreed, and we soon found out that the province had granted us $100,000. Now, we don't have it yet. It'll come probably in the next week or so. And the reason, and what they wanted for this $100,000, what they want us to do is to connect with families across BC, to strengthen and to build capacity for our Healing Hearts and Holding Hope support groups. And it's a little bit loose, but it's to build resilience in families who are struggling with either grief or a loved one in substance use or incarcerated and so on. So this is really exciting to us, of course. No one has ever given us money like that before. And so we had to, so Jenny Howard and I have been working on I'll just give you the short story, the application and then all the things that you have to fill out and sign. So we're in good shape with that. We are now planning and strategizing the best way that we can use this. This is all new to us. It's exciting, but it's a huge amount of work. So I just wanted to give you that news and let you know that, this is a big step forward here in BC, and we hope that what we do will be a template for what can be done across Canada. Some provinces obviously are hugely challenging and are not acknowledging the work that needs to be done in a fulsome way, but BC has always been a leader in this. As was said in Helen's report, we did receive $50,000 anonymous donation. That allowed us to hire Jenny Howard as our program manager, and that has just been the biggest help we could have ever hoped for. So those two things, that's the grant, the BC grant, which you'll hear updates and what we're doing and how we're proceeding with that. The next thing is BC issued, as you probably know, safer supply guidelines to mitigate the the crisis, I forget exactly how you say it, mitigating the COVID crisis for people who use drugs. They stumbled through this rollout, and we in BC, there's many of us who are on committee now to help roll out in a way that people can access this actual safer supply. And as I've said in media, and you know, I don't think the province agrees with me, but this is a foot in the door to safer supply. I can't imagine them rolling it back. They might, but you know, all of a sudden yanking it away from people. So I think this is a really important, important moment in time. Also, at this moment, I'm going to do something that's not on the agenda, and that is to turn it over just for a very few minutes to Tracy Letts, because Tracy is going to speak to another project that's going on in BC that Mum Stop the Harm is supportive of. We think it's brilliant, and we're hoping it will succeed. So Tracy, if you don't mind, just for a few minutes, just to give us an update or give us an idea of what this project is.
Hi, everybody. I think actually Marina Richards just has something really quick to say in regards to this.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay. Marina?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Tracy is actually the person who can totally speak to this. We had a little chat earlier, and she just asked me to say a couple words. Basically, I just want to say the ideology around what we're trying to do is a telehealth portal, and we're taking our collective grief and turning it into fuel in order to affect change. And a group of us got together after the, you know, the rollout. We heard about the rollout, and it just, like, I did a backflip in my living room. I was so excited. But when it comes down to it, it's not that easy. The information is confusing. Prescribers were having a hard time getting on board. People couldn't find the access to prescribers, on and on and on. So a group came together with this idea. Tracy, take it away.
Hi, so basically in collaboration, we've been working with BC Yukon Association of Drug War Users Survivors, and who's been granted money also from the BC government to set up user groups throughout British Columbia. So working in collaboration with them and the MySafe project that was started with Dr. Mark Tyndall in the downtown east side, we've put together a telehealth portal that is directly to link to people who use drugs so that they can actually access the safer supply through our portal without having to go into an OAT clinic or access through 811, which is the line they set up here. And basically it's for everybody else in our province who is being left out, other than in the urban areas, which are fairly well served as they are now. And all the anecdotal evidence that we're getting back is that GPs are turning people away. They're not willing to write the prescriptions. They're not willing to put themselves out there. So we've actually been in contact with quite a few different healthcare providers throughout the province, and we're slowly building up a group of them that are willing to work with us and work through our portal to do the proper assessments as needed and get everybody started on a safer supply with the supports in place in the background. And that's where BC Yukon comes in. And we're also looking to connect the user groups with moms in certain regions and from Mum Stop the Harm to make that connection that I think that everybody's really missing. And so far we're in development, we're getting a lot of support, we're just looking for funding, applying for grants left, right, and center, which will be, so that's kind of where we're at with that.
Thank you, Tracy. Really, really exciting project. Maybe to put in context, our left coast is always a little further ahead when it comes to harm reduction, and the rest of us, we're sometimes just fighting to preserve the bases. But safer supply, for those of you who might not know, is the idea to replace illicit street drugs a person is using with a prescription grade, basically with prescriptions that analogous or similar to what the person is taking from the street. Like, for example, a person who's taking opioids could get a prescription of hydromorphone, or somebody who takes stimulants can get a prescription for a stimulant. So this has been made possible by the federal government under what they call a pandemic prescribing. It's a new opportunity that has been seized in BC, and unfortunately the Alberta and Ontario government have publicly spoken against it, and other provinces have ignored it so far. But the good news is that any doctor who's willing can safely prescribe. So even if your province does not have a policy on safer supply, you can reach out to physicians. Like, for example, if you know somebody, they're prescribing, they're a methadone Suboxone prescriber and they understand the issue, they might be willing to enter into that. Yeah, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, the comment from Julie, are not providing guidance on that, which is just awful. They need to step up to the plate. Sandra had made a comment earlier that nurse practitioners might be a solution. That is something that is being explored in BC. They are only a solution in provinces that are willing to work on this platform. But in Ontario, for example, physicians like Dr. Andrea Sarita, Dr. Nanki Rai, they are prescribers who are involved in that. And I know there are probably some prescribers in Alberta as well, and they're the injectable programs. So we have, these are exciting updates from BC. Thank you, Leslie. And just around the grants, I'm working, or ought to be working intensively on a grant to the federal government that will allow us to mimic some of what's happening in BC in a small way. We won't have that level of funding across the country, but we are looking for a grant to strengthen our Healing Hearts Grief Support Group, as well as to start support groups across the country. So stand tuned for that.
Can I just correct one thing?
Yeah.
The BC College of Physicians and Surgeons has produced the guidelines for the rollout of the safer supply, the mitigation during COVID. The guidelines are good, but they have no teeth. So I just want to correct that. They have come out with a statement that gives permission, if you want, to physicians and prescribers, but it doesn't mandate them to do so.
Yeah, Antoinette had a question, like, how do people pay for it? In BC, it's covered under people's healthcare plans. In other provinces, it would depend what kind of a prescription. It would be covered under whatever prescription coverage people have. And of course, it would not be covered if you don't have prescription coverage. But think about it, like hydromorphone has been around a long time. It's not an expensive drug, and it's by far cheaper than trying to buy fentanyl on the street. So even if somebody doesn't have coverage. So I'm just looking at some of the notes here. Yeah, the college needs to step up. As Leslie said, it's better in BC. Marie said Saskatchewan won't consider CAT about documenting successes. There are successes, but still a long way to go. Deb, college needs to set up. If you know Judas, yeah, if you know a doctor who is willing to help you, you can share that information with people who use. And in other provinces, I would just, the doctor is not breaking any rules. The doctor are totally acting within their legal framework, but many of them are hesitant because they are afraid that they're being perceived as overprescribing opioids. But you have to remember, safer supply. Like if I would walk into Mark Tyndall's office tomorrow and said, you know, Mark, I'd like to really take advantage of that safer supply. Can you give me a prescription for hydromorphone? I think Mark would sit down with me and explore what my reason is. And maybe I'd get a referral to a pain doctor, or maybe I need a referral to some psychological help. I would not be walking out with a prescription of hydromorphone just because I want one, because it's for people who are using and need these prescriptions. Not for opioid naive patients as it was previously with overprescribing. Often in Alberta, it's thrown in our face. It's like, oh, it's like overprescribing. It is not. So doctors are not doing anything illegal. Yeah, and Tracy said they're targeting those that are unable to access it. They don't need to take a course. No, it's not like methadone, because they're already prescribing hydromorphone. Like if you had major surgery, you know, you'd get some pain meds for that. They don't need to take a course, but they are from BCCSU has published guidelines that are available to them on the BCCSU website if you look under COVID. Yeah, and Deb is saying, forward the information. If you know a doctor in BC, send it to Tracy and Marina. Doctors in Ontario, that's very onerous and managed prescription. Yes, it is. It is indeed. It takes a brave doctor. And anybody in Ontario should talk to Andrea Sarita or Nanki Rai. Yes. So we need to advocate for the doctor. So this is very exciting. Moving on, yeah, College of Pharmacists, there's some pressure from that. And so moving on, what we need to look at next in our agenda is regional advocacy groups and regional advocates. We've been talking for a long time to strengthen our leadership group and regional advocates. So what we want to move towards is actively recruiting regional advocates, and this will be a little easier in BC with the funding. It'll be easier in other regions as well once we have funding. But that will be something our leadership group will move into, a group of regional advocates. And I'm working on a handbook for that, and that will be rolled out. And there will be, Jennifer has developed for us a set of guiding principles for anybody who is active as an advocate and regional has either active as an advocate or in a group. They will be signing on to a set of guiding principles. And what that helps us is to make sure we all work on the same direction, and that we all have basic structure and guidelines as to how we work with each other, how we communicate, and how we are most effective as advocates. So we'll be rolling some of this out by email. Some of you have already been on the platform Slack before. The board has been using that, and we are looking to move our advocates over to Slack. It's kind of a communication platform that a lot of businesses and not-for-profits use, because right now we have people who want to be active and are not on Facebook, and we are excluding them. And also we want to move to something that is more secure and where it's more where it's easier to share information. The rest of the board, does anybody have anything to add to that? Jennifer, do you want to speak briefly on the guidelines? Putting you on the spot.
Sure. Overall, we're, as a network, I'm working on policy and procedure development for Moms Stop the Harm. And so the leadership guidelines are going to be a series of 12 points that will be in alignment with the Moms Stop the Harm values and beliefs. And so going forward, once we get this all organized, anyone who is wanting to be an active leader will just have these guidelines to review, and we'll be able to sign off on them. And so it's just it's a way of providing some structure and guidance for all of us that are working so actively, and making sure that members who are stretched right across from the West Coast to the East Coast, we're all in agreement and alignment around Moms Stop the Harm values and beliefs. So that will be rolled out with the concept of the regional advocate group leadership that Petra's developing, and it's underway right now, in progress, and then it'll be presented to members who are interested. That's helpful.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah. So the idea is as well that right now there are probably people who want to be more active, and we don't know. You know, often we encourage people to become active, like on Facebook, when people make posts or comments, or somebody does a media interview. You know, we reach out to them. But there are probably people who have great talents to share that we're not aware of. So this is one way of encouraging people to formally get involved. So, are there questions on this? And of course, we hope that everyone in the current leadership group will move over to this platform, because we have people who've been in leadership for a long, long time. And that group has come forward with great ideas, things to do, and actively works on a local basis. We really want to preserve and strengthen that. All right, if there are no questions, then yeah, that brings us to member introduction. And we actually have more time than I was afraid. So here's the time when you can unmute yourself. So we thought we don't have time to share our stories, unfortunately. We would have had time if we were in Edmonton, and we would have had evenings to sit. So if you could just briefly say your name, where you are, and who brought you,